Hello and welcome to On the Air, Season 2, Episode 1, with myself, Ian.
Hello, Mike.
We're here today because it's podcast day, isn't it? It's Freedom Day as well if you're in the UK. So be sensible with that. We don't want to be in lockdown again, you bastards. But Premier League is sort of edging closer and closer. It's the longest period we've had without football since the first lockdown. Because we had the Euros in the summer, which is fantastic. But we now have some rule changes to go over for the coming season. First of all, I'd like to say concussion substitutes will continue this season. Still on a trial basis. We see them brought in the end half of last season. That is until August 2022. And it may become a permanent fixture from next season. They may tweak it and trial it again. But that's the first one, which is always positive news. Some of these rule changes may annoy you. Some of them may not. But the International Football Association Board, that's who make up the rules of football, the IFAB, they've moved to make it more obvious as to what officials are looking for in handball situations. We see a number of them last year which were controversial to say the least. And a number of things that were given that football fans were saying probably shouldn't be given. But accidental handball will no longer be an offence, which is good. So if you're running along, then it's not going to be an offence. However, it will still be an offence if a goal is scored by it. So if it comes off your elbow and goes in the goal, that's an offence. Or if it immediately creates a chance that scores a goal. So that's good in a sense. So they've changed the language when discussing players making their body unnaturally bigger, which is what the rules say. So what they mean by that is, where players are jumping up and the body's unnaturally bigger. It's outside its normal silhouette. And a player, this is what's written in it. A player is considered to have made their body unnaturally bigger when the position of their hand/arm is not a consequence of or justifiably by the player's body movement for that specific situation. So where players lift their arms up to jump, that is no longer unnatural body position. It depends if you're sprinting and your arms are out in front, which is one we saw a lot last year. That's no longer going to be handball. But it does go on to say, by having their hand/arm in such a position, the player takes a risk of their hand/arm being hit by the ball and being penalised. So what they're saying is before you almost had to run with your hands at your side, and the removal of the language of the hand/arm is above/beyond their shoulder level. So what they're saying is the cut-off point is your armpit. That is handball anywhere past your armpit. But because of they've given all the discretion to referees, I feel that could create more grey areas than actually trying to sort it out. So they've tried to do a good thing by sorting it out, but it then depends on, does the referee ask what the player was doing in that situation, and can they justify their hands being out there if they're falling over. So that's the one I was a little bit annoyed about.
I've just got a follow-on from that as well.
Go on.
Firstly, I know this is going to be a question for years and years and years to come, regardless of any rule changes.
Yes.
However, that does open it up to be a little bit conspicuous in the terms of, if you're running.
Yes.
For the people that listening to us audio only, but for the people on YouTube, you'll see what I mean. But if you're running and your arm goes like that,
yes,
and you see the ball coming and you hit the ball,
yes,
that's in your normal silhouette.
Yes.
So effectively, you could nudge the ball on.
Yes.
And it wouldn't be penalised.
No. Unless it leads directly to a goal being scored.
Because I know that was something that they'd spoken about previously, because it was any goal leading up to it, wasn't it? And then you had to be a certain amount of phases beforehand.
Yes. So I mean, what they're saying is A prime example of what I recall last year was Declan Rice running through, the ball being blasted at him from 2 foot away, it hitting his hand, falling in front of him for him to then be able to go on and wallop it, was given as handball. So this year, what they're saying is he didn't intentionally put his hand up to grab it, he was running and it was blasted at him. So justifiably, there's not a lot he can do. So it just goes on how sensible the referees are, which, as we know with the Premier League, isn't always that sensible. It's just one of those things that they've tried to make it as black and white as they can with what is handball and what is not, but say with the discretion being given to the referees, it's just going to cause more problems, I think.
Yeah, because that opens it up for a lot of ambiguity.
Yes,
as well.
But that should be. I mean, the Premier League itself and the FA should be managing that itself to make sure that however they apply that that discretion is done consistently.
We're fucked. Arsenal are fucked.
So offside. Here's one for offside. Offside law has also been clarified. As a result, the arm is deemed to end at the bottom of each player's armpit. So similar to the handball, the arm ends here. Yeah, that's the area which will now be viewed as a cut-off point when making those calls. So as they're drawing the lines on VAR, the armpit, if the arm is outstretched, it will come to the armpit.
Okay.
So
again, just throwing that in, if a player's running forwards, do they use the leg or do they use the armpit?
They will use whatever is furthest forward.
Okay, so it is the same. Okay,
yeah, but what they've done with that is they've given the advantage back to the attacker, which I'll get onto now, because they're now using thicker lines for offside. So what they're trying to do here is if a player is deemed to be in an offside position with a minuscule margin of error, it will no longer be penalised. So those ones that were like a toenail offside will no longer be offside. So it does give a little bit more of an advantage back to the attacker as per being that. But yeah, whatever's furthest forward. So if the player is leaning right over, then it will be probably taken from the armpit or the head or whatever. However, TV viewers will no longer be able to observe the lines being drawn, only the final verdict. So we'll get to see it. But what I think it caused fury last time was they drew a line and then drew the other line and then moved the first one so it looked like it was offside. So that will probably still go on, but pardon me, we won't get to see it. We'll only get to see the final. It's offside or it's onside.
Well, that's fair enough. That's what they were doing in the Euros.
Yes. So UEFA already use that model, and the Dutch have used it for a couple of years as well. So it does work because I can't imagine. Well, if I'm honest, I can't remember a single controversial VAR call in the Euros. I mean, nope. I'm not saying they didn't get them all right because I mean Sterling's dive was a little bit naughty, wasn't it? But but it went for us, so it was definitely a penalty. But they got very much on the thing of a clear and obvious error. Was it a clear and obvious error? No, it wasn't, because from the angle the referee could see it, it looked like there was contact. Therefore, referee's decision stands. So I just hope that the Premier League officials really do start to think about what they're doing. We had a couple of officials at the Euros, so hopefully they networked and found out a bit about it. And I mean, it was all. Here's the thing: it was all the same facilities being used, especially when a lot of it was being played over here. All the facilities were over here, so they can't say it's because of the facility or the cameras, or because it was our stuff being used. So yeah,
no, it's a fair point. I am hoping that with those changes, because I mean, let's be honest, a lot of those were reasons for uproar.
Yes,
last year for a lot of the podcasts that we were doing. I think the offside more so than the handball, but it's good to get some sort of clarification over the handball. But certainly the offside, I think, is if it works, it will be better.
Certainly. I think in a lot of the transcripts and stuff that I read, there are pages and pages. The meetings, you can find them all online because it's all open and transparent. Um, the the FA and the Premier League officials and the whatever the officials board is were saying, well, we're just applying what we think the International Football Association board want us to, because we can't clarify what it is because they won't change the rules. Now they've changed the rules, so they're sort of saying, well, it's not our problem because everyone else gets it right. It's the FA, it's the Premier League, it's the British officials. And we have seen the Aussie bloke referee is coming over to the Premier League, isn't he? You know that one where you see him?
Oh yeah,
he's now in the Premier. Yeah, he's now in the Premier League.
Oh, nice.
So I don't know whether he will be mic'd up, but rave reviews from Australia and around the world because he's refereed in a number of tournaments and stuff. So yeah, that can only be good because they look like they're trying to improve the quality of officiating.
It couldn't get any worse.
Well, it couldn't get any worse, no. but we're up there. We're trying to.
Yeah, it sounds positive.
Be positive about VAR. I'm sure as the season goes on, we will get more and more cynical until the World Cup comes around, and then it will all be back over to UEFA, who seem to apply all the rules properly.
Oh. Well, you have said for the last two seasons that if by the third season with VAR, it should be something that we all enjoy. And to be honest, I think with those changes, certainly with the offside one, if it is that we don't see it until the decision has been made, we've seen it work effectively in the World Cup, and I think we saw it effectively in the Women's World Cup as well. Sorry, in the Euros. For the men's, it's a system that seemed to work, and I had no complaints over VAR during the Euros. And if it is that we see the decision, it won't give people a chance to go, oh no, you haven't drawn the line properly, because the decision will be there and then. I just hope the one thing I hope they improve on as well is the speed. The speed in which these decisions are made, because if they're not doing anything to show the audience anymore, then I think they definitely need to work on the speed of the decisions being made.
Yes, I agree. I do totally agree, because but this is the difference. In the Euros, I can't recall any moments where there was a long pause, maybe 2 minutes at the most. But say in the Premier League,
the game I can think that happened was the Germany-Portugal game.
Yes, yeah. But say in the Premier League, it was a minimum of 2 minutes. That was a quick decision. Other than that, it was 5-6 minutes. And that was a point where I thought they need to stop the clock, because then you're getting an unbalanced amount of time added on at the end. It was getting 8 minutes in the first half. You think we've only had 2 stoppages? What's going on? Now have we got eight added minutes? But yeah, I think the fact that say the ones with that were a small amount offside, where they were saying it could be, it couldn't be, it depends on where the line's drawn, are now being sort of scrapped. I think we will see a much more exciting attacking Premier League, and probably a lot less penalties.
Yep.
Well, no, a lot less penalties. Yeah. Is that right? No.
Well, yeah, because Man United were getting some ridiculous decisions.
Yeah,
every other game they were getting a penalty.
Yeah, but that comes more down to the handballs and stuff, doesn't it? So we probably see less penalties this year and less offsides, and hopefully quicker decisions. But with the rules out of the way, all the rest of the rules obviously stay the same. If you use the only other thing it did mention, it said if you use a trick to pass it back to the goalkeeper, and they pick it up, you'll still be penalised for that as handball or a pass back. And the offender will be cautioned. So I don't know how that changes.
I do have a follow-up question on the concussion substitutes.
Yes.
Obviously, we have seen those work effectively in the Premier League already. However, do you think, as that's now going to be a mainstay, certainly for this year, do you feel that some clubs will abuse the system.
Now, this is something that I thought about as well. I think certainly people will try to find a way around it because it's an extra substitution, isn't it? If you've used all of your I'm skipping ahead. For those people who don't understand what the concussion substitute is, if you've used all of your substitutions, you can then, and someone goes down with a head injury or suspected head injury, you can take them off and replace them with a player. So it's just to keep the game flowing as much as possible without being penalised for an incident or an accident. So that's what a concussion substitute is. So in my opinion, I do think we're going to see teams try to take advantage of that to get an extra man on the pitch. I do think that is a disgusting thing to do, but I will try and find out what the ramifications of that are, because there must be some sort of medical journal or something that goes on that gets reported back to say, yes, because if you just get seen by your club doctor, then they potentially could be signing on the dotted line, yeah, it was concussed, but then theoretically you would have to miss 3 games to make sure that you're, and that's what I think there needs to be some clarification on, because it's at a trial basis. So I'll try and find that out for next week. I hope people wouldn't take advantage of it, but I do think there should be some ramification if you come off as a concussion substitute. I know obviously they're not always going to be concussed, but if you have an incident that's clear and obvious because you've clashed heads with someone, then they can look at it and go, okay, you're not concussed, fantastic, you can come back on. If you've said, oh, someone bashed me in the head in a corner, and they look at it and go, no, they didn't, later down the line, and I think you should be penalised as a player and potentially as a club for playing the game. But
yep,
I hope it doesn't.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't. I'll try and get some clarification next week, and look up the intricacies of it.
I think that's going to be one thing that potentially could be abused by clubs. But if they have some sort of, as you said, some medical journal where it's all reported into, that player then has to miss X amount of games. And I can assure you, if they do stick to that as some sort of protocol, clubs may start to abuse it. And then if they end up losing players for X amount of games, I can assure you they'll stop doing it very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to use an example. This is just an example. Manchester City are winning. Kevin De Bruyne is looking absolutely shattered out there, and he wants to bring him off to save him for the FA Cup final next week, and he comes off because he's got a suspected head injury. Then, as a precaution or a precautionary measure, what I'm saying is they probably should miss at least the next game, because lasting effects, you don't want to make it worse. You want to make sure that someone's back at 100% health before obviously putting them back on the pitch. So
speaking personally,
yeah. But yeah, I'm not saying Kevin De Bruyne would do that. It was just a think of a thought of actually in a big game, they're the player he relies on, and actually if they're 3-0 up, they'll want to bring him off. If they've already made their substitutes, then that's the way to get him off.
Goddamn Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah, I mean, if he wasn't such a good player, it wouldn't be a problem, would it? I mean, just saying. Right, but Premier League pre-season, Mike. We're now. I was going to use a quite horrible term, but I won't. But we're now deep into pre-season. How's it going for Arsenal?
A bit ropey, if I'm being completely honest. We went up to Scotland the beginning of last week. We played Hibs on Tuesday, and then we played Rangers on Saturday.
Yep.
Very mixed teams. There was a lot of the academy boys getting a run out, so it was a mix of youth and some experience. Obviously, there are a few senior players returning back from international duty. So for the first game against Hibs, we lost 2-1. There was an academy goalkeeper who'd come up into the first team for this year, just signed a new contract, and the first goal was completely his fault. In fact, no. I'd say 50-50 between him and Cedric. So the ball was being played around the back. Cedric passed the ball kind of a bit loopy back to this keeper, and the keeper didn't know what to do with it. Tried to swing at it, completely missed, and the Hibs player come in and scored the goal. So that was one of those, what the hell are you doing? It's the whole Alex Runnison situation.
Yep.
So all the promise, and then you get him on the pitch and it was a bit ropey. I'm putting that down to nervousness. This is his first time in the first team, but he's definitely going to have to work on that, because I'm sure there will be other situations similar to that in the future.
Yep.
And if anyone is watching, they will try and capitalise on that massively. We have conceded 3 goals from 3 set pieces. It's not looking good from a defensive aspect. However, the game against Rangers, it was 2-2. We had, I think, about 8 or 10 clear chances. Could have scored a million goals, I reckon. But we weren't clinical enough. But again, we're ring rusty. People are just coming back from their summer holidays and all that sort of stuff. So need to get back into the swing of things. The amount of uproar that has come from Arsenal, well, I say fans loosely, saying that, again, Arteta out, blah, 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 blah. I don't think they understand the whole point of a pre-season. The whole point of a pre-season is to get players back into fitness, back into match sharpness. They're not there. They're not going to define your whole season.
No.
Perfect example of this is, I think the season we were, the last season we won the league, so 2003. We lost our first 2 opening games and went the whole season unbeaten. Again, I'm going to put this down to the whole plastic fans business. They haven't got a fucking clue, and they just need to ease up. We've got, like I said, the players that were run out were a mixture of academy and second string teamers, with the exception of Aubameyang. We did see new boy Nuno Tavares playing in the game against Rangers. Looked pretty good and also scored on his Arsenal debut. Again, I know it's a pre-season, however, it looked quite sharp.
Yeah.
We also had Eddie Nketiah scored and Emile Smith-Rowe scored in the Hibs game. Emile Smith-Rowe looks really good. It doesn't look like he's been affected much by the mid-season or by the season break.
Yep.
So good on him. We have, in fact, I'm going to save that bit of news to a bit later on. But further transfers incoming potentially. No one. Yeah. I've just spoiled the surprise. Anyway, so we march on to Florida next. We're going to Florida for the weekend. We are playing Inter Milan and also, give me 2 seconds, I will tell you. Everton Millonarios.
A Brazilian club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're playing them. Yeah, I will take your word for it. Sure. Yeah, so we're playing those 2 games. So we've got on Sunday, the 25th of July and the 28th, we are playing in Florida, to then come back on the 1st of August, and we are playing in something called the Mind Series, which is between the London clubs, Arsenal, Chelsea and Spurs. And it's basically there to raise awareness for mental health, which I think is a really good cause. And I'm not sure if there's any trophy, but I would assume there would be some sort of like charity shield type thing for that. But yeah, it should be good. And I'm looking forward to those games.
And I'm sure Chelsea will probably win it, and Tottenham will release a highlights DVD.
Of course. Second, for finishing second.
Yeah.
Runners up in the Mind Series.
Yeah. I mean, you've been up. West Ham went up to Scotland as well. I don't know if that was just a coincidence, or I don't think we're going anywhere else nice. I mean, we drew 2-2 with Dundee. Then we split off into 2 different groups and played 2 fixtures at the same time. One against Northampton Town, drew against Leyton Orient. Again, both mixed squads, as you said. Lots of first team players out. We got Reading coming up, then Celtic, and then we've got Newcastle, I think. Or have we? Or have we? No, I think that's wrong. We don't. Before that, we had the Betway Cup, which I don't think we've actually ever won. We played Juventus the first year in London Stadium. I went to it last year, and Dean Garner missed a penalty, and then was sold like a week later. And then we've got Brentford this year. So although it's a pre-season, it's the last pre-season game. But Brentford are also in the Premier League, so it will be a good benchmark. We should have all our players back by then. Obviously, Yarmolenko, we don't know if he's staying or whether he's going. We don't know. But Declan Rice, Souček, Soufal, some of the big boys that play for us have all been at the Euros. So they've got a little bit of extra time off. So we've not seen them return to training yet. Come on in. Here's your transfer news, because I don't really have any. I've only got an outgoing.
Okay, so we have one incoming announced today. Sambi Lukonga. I want to say it. Let me try it and pronounce his name properly. Yeah, Sambi Lukonga. Midfielder. I have watched his interview. He has joined from Anderlecht, where he was played for the last 10 years. Has made 73 appearances, I think, or 76. It's in the 70s.
Something like
Scored
that.
3 goals.
Yep.
Listening to his interview, he says he slots in nicely into a number 6 position, but can be a attacking midfielder as well. I'm actually interested to see, because I think he's going to be used in the trip to Florida. Obviously, he's had his first training session today as well, which is good. Just to see how he is going to be utilised in the trip to Miami. There will be a few more players, I think, that get a run out. We did see Flo Balogun start against Rangers as well. So it'd be interesting to see if he gets another run out. I do think he's going to get a position in the first team squad this year.
Yep.
But we do have the likes of Martinelli coming back as well. We do have Bern Leno. We have all sorts of other players coming back. Saka obviously coming back as well. Kieran Tierney actually made himself available to come back to the team early because he wanted to get involved in training again.
Well, Scotland weren't really in the Euros, were they? I was in it for what, a week? A week in the night. Get out of it. Yeah. You're not mate. It's the sort of thing they were like the unwanted party at a restaurant. They got in and no one realised they were there and they were chucked out rather swiftly.
Too rowdy.
Yeah. I mean, you've got Martinelli. You mentioned him, a player that is exciting to watch, can be quite pivotal to your attacking lineup, and seems to change games when he come on last year. He's going to the Olympics, isn't he? Is there any worry for that? Because there's meant to be this COVID outbreak in Tokyo, and there's all sorts of other stuff going on. Is that a worry that he may miss a little bit of the season coming back and having to isolate, or?
To be honest, I think he would get some sort of break or extension to his holiday. I use holiday in inverted commas. Shortly after he comes back anyway. So right. Even if he does come back and has to isolate for potential COVID reasons, I don't think that would have too much of an impact on him because he would be in a break anyway.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
And we do have other players. We do have other players that can play in his position. Willian, for example,
who
Arsenal's king of assists last season. Yeah. So yeah, it's we do have some cover. I do expect more transfers in. Ben White obviously called up late to the England squad. Didn't make an appearance. But apparently the deal is close for him for around about £50 million, which will cover the centre back position. And I did say that if we sign Ben White, William Saliba would go out on loan, and sure enough, he has gone out on loan to Marseille, I think it was.
Same place as Guendouzi. Which would be interesting.
So, yes.
Very good. Very good. I mean, Ben White, I see. I was looking up some of his statistics for the Premier League last season. As a centre back, he had the most forward passes from any centre back around the league. So and that fits into the bill of that sort of ball playing centre back that wants to drive forward. So it could be a good signing for you. Could be a good signing. A lot of money if it goes wrong. Speaking of going wrong and big money, Felipe Anderson, who remembers that geezer, was absolutely blistering on FIFA one couple of years ago.
That's what I was just about to say.
So we signed him for 36 million 3 years ago. With all the add-ons, it would go up to 42. He was a club record signing. We've now sold him back to Lazio, where we bought him, for allegedly around 5 million quid. He was on big money as well. So that's not all bad news, because that's a big chunk off of the wage budget, which means that Declan Rice is, again, allegedly going to be offered a big money contract to make him the highest paid player in the club. And I think overall, that has to be the most important bit of transfer business for West Ham, is keeping hold of him. I think he's price only went up during the Euros, and the interest of him will only go up because of the Euros. So keeping hold of our future captain and arguably, well, it's not even arguably, he's hands down our best player, is a must. So yeah, hopefully that will be sorted soon. It does bring up concerns if they're having to get rid of players to free up wage budget. How are we going to bring in some of these other players who are wanting around about 100k a week? And the people I'm talking about here, Jesse Lingard, he said if he goes anywhere, he will want to join West Ham. Been linked with Atletico Madrid. Ollie said obviously he's in his plans still, but I still think he's going to be fairly down the pecking order at Manchester United. But I think Manchester United are going to price everyone out of a move. He's got 1 year left in his contract, which was an extension from last year. He's optional 1 year extension, but they want 30 million for him, which is a lot of money for someone who's only got a year left on their contract. Leave it till January, you can get him on a free. Do you know what I mean? The other one, Tammy Abraham, does look like he's going to be leaving Chelsea. Was their top goal scorer last year, so which is a little bit odd because they didn't seem to set the world on fire. But apparently Chelsea wanted 40 million, but are prepared to take less. And there are a few teams in for him. Are Arsenal in the thing as well? So
that's what I'm saying, mate. We are linked with about 40 million different players, and he is one of them.
From what I've read, apparently sources close to him put West Ham as the favourite, for the basis of he knows he would be first choice. Mm-hmm. He would be the only out-and-out striker in the club, so therefore would be first choice striker rather than, say, you go to Arsenal, you have got a fair bit of competition there. You go to Aston Villa, there's a fair bit of competition there. So West Ham going, oh, you've got Antonio, who is good at holding up the ball, but finishing can be questioned. So yeah, but if those two players come as well, you're looking at, they're both going to want at least 100k a week, aren't they? Where are we going to get that money from? I have a good news. Sam Johnston. He's been relegated 2 years on a trot, I believe. West Brom rejected a £6 million bid for him, which is fantastic news for me because I thought he was absolutely dog shit last year. I don't want him at the club at all. Obviously, they're looking at replacing Fabianski or succession planning at least, because when he was injured, we looked really shaky. Nathan Trott, who I've raved about for a while, he's played a few pre-seasons and he's getting to the age where he should be playing a lot more, but is he Premier League quality? Possibly not. Don't know. It's a bit hard to tell with the pre-season friendlies because it is odd defensive lines in front of them. They're trying new things. People are just trying to get fit. But apparently we are in talks with PSG for Areola, or as a lot of people knew him last year, Nipples. He played for Fulham last year, was on loan. But I think that'd be a much better signing, and especially if they sign Donnarumma on a free transfer, he will be leaving PSG because there'll be no need for him. Not with Keylor Navas there as well. But that's all Premier League, West Ham transfer talk for a moment. I don't want to hold my breath because I think I'll die like if we hold it, if I have to hold it till we sign someone. But
yeah.
Has Granit Xhaka left yet?
No, he hasn't. There's still ongoing rumours about his potential departure from the club. I think we will see him leave. Again, we have got the likes of Thomas Partey, Mohamed El Neni. Let's not forget Mo. Obviously, with this new guy coming in as well, Lokonga. I think that is as a replacement for Xhaka. So I think now that we've got that deal over the line, I think we will see the back of Granit Xhaka. I will be very surprised if he doesn't go. But I think there's still talks about fees. So I think personal terms have been agreed in principle, and it's now just a discussion over the transfer fee. So again, is one that we could possibly see over the next couple of weeks, or like I said, because we've now got this transfer over the line, it could be done something fairly quickly. So I think that will be the end of Granit Xhaka as an Arsenal player. Yeah,
I think some Arsenal fans will miss him, and some will be glad to see the back of him. I think that'd be a very mixed reception.
Yeah,
very mixed farewell.
I think for me, it's a very mixed farewell as well, because I mean, for the majority of last season, you could tell when he wasn't in the team, we looked vulnerable. He did provide a stability within the midfield, because obviously with Thomas Partey being a bit hit and miss with the old injuries as well, I'm hoping we've seen the back of that. But obviously there have been some torrid times as well. Scored some absolutely wonderful goals for us, has caused a few red cards and silly challenges and all that sort of stuff. So it's a mixed bag of emotions. But I think with any sort of play, you do as much. It's kind of like the whole pantomime villain thing, that you do want to boo them and you're not a massive fan of them, but I suppose you do sense or you do feel a sense of loss for a brief moment when they do leave the club.
Yeah.
And I would say that even about Squadron Mustafi as well. As a player, you kind of love to hate. When he was on his game, when he first joined the club, he was absolutely outstanding.
Yep.
And then went a bit hot and cold. Obviously caused a few issues at Schalke when he went to Schalke last season. I believe they got relegated. So yeah. But yes, yeah. Bring on the rest of the transfer window and the 50 million players that we've 50 million and one. I've just seen another rumour. Yeah, no, it's a joke, but it's nice to see us actually doing some business fairly early on in the transfer window.
Yeah,
to be honest.
So you're usually one of those clubs, a bit like Spurs, who do leave it late, last couple of days of the transfer window, and then you wrap up all your business after everyone else is finished.
And try and go around the bargain bin.
Yeah. I mean, to finish off this week, I'm gonna think back to that last game in the Euros. Saka missed his penalty, didn't he? The pivotal penalty. Yep. If he'd scored, we would have carried on. He missed, so we lost. I saw a TikTok the other day, which had Phil Foden's comment about, if we win, everyone said they're going to get my haircut. And someone showed the penalty, and they said this is why he missed. And they'd superimposed Phil Foden's haircut onto Saka. And from experience of having some dodgy haircuts, I can say, if that was the reason, if he did miss it intentionally, I don't blame you, mate. I don't begrudge it at all. You got to do what you got to do. I don't think he did. Just a little bit of fun. But yeah, from this week, I have been Ian.
I've been Mike.
We have been on the air, and we are FDT-TV, and we will see you next week.
Thanks very much.